The following is an encore presentation of stories from the Dooralong Transformation Centre.
I want to have to explain some issues too, maybe find something for them to do. Okay, so Joe is still with us in the studio. Joe was telling us before the news break that you've been at Dooralong for 11 months and it's the best thing that you've done in your life.
Absolutely it is, yeah.
What was the Joe like before she went to Dooralong? If we had met Joe sort of 2 years ago, who would we have seen?
Oh, you would have seen someone that was looking like she was coping, but she wasn't. Like I was very good at the practicalities of life. I worked and I raised a family, and I looked like I was doing all the things that society said was to do, but I was empty and I was lost and I was angry and resentful. I had so much anger and resentment at life in general. I just thought I'd been dealt a hard go and no one understood me and I was just doing all this stuff that was meant to be the right things to do and I just wasn't getting any peace or happiness and I just thought, life was just going to be like that.
Yeah, not a happy place.
No.
Now, you were telling me earlier off air, and you're going to have to explain this to our listeners, Joe, because I certainly didn't understand it. You were explaining that, well, you had a drug addiction, but that was really just a symptom of what you call codependency. What is codependency?
Codependency, for me, codependency was looking externally for validation, and every interaction basically I had in my life was to try and get a piece of something to try and fill that void inside. I needed other people to be able to feel validated and feel like a person and worthy. So my children, as much as I loved them, and unfortunately, as they grew and became more independent, my codependency became more out of control because I wasn't getting anything from them because I was raising them to be independent people, but I needed other people for my validation to have a sense of who I was.
So you had no what we would call self-worth or self-esteem. You had to get that from other people. Absolutely.
And I based things on I based my self-worth on what I did, not who I was, because I didn't know who I was. I had no sense of self whatsoever. And it was crazy, it was horrible.
And so those people in your life that were important to you, they didn't know that you had codependency and therefore weren't going out of their way to validate you or sort of boost your self-esteem. What would you think of those people?
I just thought I had to try harder and I had to be more perfect, and I wasn't good enough. It's not that I thought badly of them. I thought more badly of myself.
Okay, that's interesting. So the less validation you got from other people, that you just took that upon yourself, that, that's something wrong with me. I've got to try harder. I've got to be better. I've got to do something more to get their approval.
Yeah.
Oh, that's hard work.
It was exhausting. And it kept me in relationships that were toxic and abusive. And in the end, the last relationship I had was it was just chaos. It was ridiculous, and my children had had enough, and they basically couldn't. They got tired of trying to save me. They had to go and save themselves, and that's all they could do. That's all anyone can do. And
when you look back now, with the sort of self-awareness that you have of your codependency, is this something that's always been in your life from a teenager and into your 20s?
Looking back, I can see definite traits of that, and it just got worse and worse as I got older. But definitely it was a theme throughout my whole life.
And what would other people have said of Joe at that stage? Would they have said Joe's a bit needy, or there's something about Joe that she's trying too hard, or what was it?
Probably that I was a control freak.
A control freak.
Yeah, trying to control every situation so I could determine the outcome, so it was in my favour, or to make me look really good, because I needed people to think I was okay.
Yeah, you needed people to say, "Well done, Joe, you did a terrific job there," but not just as a compliment, but you needed it. You really needed that.
Yeah, I needed it to survive. It was almost like my oxygen.
Yeah.
Every interaction, as I said, I needed oxygen from that other person just to get me through.
They had to give you something.
Yeah.
Validation, compliments, self-worth, self-esteem.
Yep, and I became a chameleon, so I had no integrity. There was no solid me inside. Every interaction that I had, I was like a chameleon, so I changed to mould into that situation I was in. So, there was no integrity. I had no pillar of anything of me inside.
When did drugs come into your life then?
Drugs came into my life probably around 2.5 years prior to going to Dooralong. I dabbled when I was younger, as I guess a lot of people do, but for that 2.5 years, I think it was just full on, and I escalated to a point where I thought that wasn't anything I could ever do. That was other people. There was never any way I would do any of the things I was doing.
Yeah. These people are weak. Why don't they pull themselves together? Drug addicts.
Yeah. What's wrong with them? Why would you do that?
Yeah.
You know? Why? And so because I had got to a stage, my children had said, we can't be around you. I was renting a house off my son, and my 3 daughters were living with me, and I had gone back into contact with my ex, who was I was in a really bad, it was a horrible relationship, and they said, we can't handle this anymore, basically. They had to look after themselves, and they had to do some tough love, I guess, and they didn't understand why I could never quite let go of this man.
We now know from what you said earlier, you couldn't let go of him because you needed that oxygen from him. You needed validation from him all the time.
Yep, and I've come to learn also, and it's, I'm trying, and because my children were older, and, this narcissistic man that, I had attracted, he ticked all the boxes to create this perfect storm between us. And it did become a perfect storm. So I ended up homeless, and what I was feeling abandoned by my children, when all I had to do was I wasn't abandoned, I was actually loved by my children.
But you couldn't feel that love?
No.
So you said when you looked at people who were in addiction earlier, you would say to yourself, why do they stop? What's wrong with them? Why don't they just pull themselves together? Which rather gives me permission to ask you, Joe, so why did you start taking drugs?
Because it was the codependency. I guess it's the ultimate codependency, and it's the ultimate self-harm. I had so much self-loathing, so much shame, so much guilt, so much confusion. I didn't understand how my life could have ended up where it did. I'd become I was in my worst nightmare. I'd lost my children, I'd lost my home, I'd lost my respect, and everything that I thought was so solid in my life. And here I was left with this man that I didn't particularly like most of the time, and couldn't understand myself why he was more important than my children. So it was to cover up. It just felt good. It stopped all that.
So all that that emptiness that you would have felt inside from not getting that validation from people around you. Drugs took that away, at least temporarily.
It did. And also, I think a part of me just wanted to die. Well, I did. I wanted to die, but I didn't know how to do that. And I thought if I just used drugs, it would eventually lead me there too.
Yeah.
So it was like a self-harm thing and a slow suicide, but it was also, in the beginning, it did feel like cover up all that horrible stuff.
Okay, before we go to a music break, so that we end on a slightly more positive note, we know that you must have met somebody in your circle of acquaintances that pointed you in the direction of Dooralong, even though you were in the depths of addiction. So who was that person? What happened to sort of get you to Dooralong?
I'm not exactly sure. I know I had come out of hospital. I had been in a drug-induced psychosis, and the mental health team had mentioned Dooralong at that time when I was doing outpatient care, and somehow that led me to Dawn at the Salvation Army at Long Jetty, and she had helped me. She had helped me get on the list for Dooralong, and she was helping me with an exit plan for my ex. And I don't know exactly how I ended up talking to her, but she was a great help.
And she found you the place at Dooralong that turns your life around.
Well, at that stage, I did. That was my first introduction to it. It was probably another 12 months before I actually ended up there. Maybe, right. Yeah. Through my fear, through my like thinking it's okay, I've got this under control.
Yeah, I'm sure you had all those emotions. Yeah. So it wasn't, I think I'll go to Dooralong. It was even going to Dooralong was a long and sort of tortuous journey for you.
Yes, well, the first admission date that I had, I think it was 2 or 3 weeks prior to when I did actually go in. I missed it because I was umming and ahhing, and I just went on this big bender, and I had a unit, and I had decided at 2 a.m. in the morning I would start packing up and packing to go to Dooralong, and I had to leave by 4 a.m. because I was catching a train. I'm not sure why. I hadn't actually made any plans, and obviously that didn't work out.
Yeah. Look, we're going to break for some music. If we've touched on issues that have triggered anything for you, don't forget to give our friends at Lifeline a ring. They're 24/7 on 13 11 14. We're going to come back to Joe after a break with some more music, and we're going to be much more positive because 11 months.
Yes, I have.
Yeah.
Yes.
How's life at Dooralong? Well, is it what you were expecting? Because I know you told me it was your first rehab, so you had no preconceived ideas at all. Was it like you thought it was going to be?
I guess I thought I would just go there until I just didn't want to use drugs anymore. And then that would be it. I didn't realise I would be transformed. It sounds so cliche, and before Dooralong, I would have probably been rolling my eyes and saying, "Oh, yeah." But it truly does transform you if you do surrender and allow what needs to happen. It works.
Yeah. Did you even know that you were you had a codependent sort of personality beforehand?
No. I thought I was not codependent because I was so independent. I was a very independent person. I worked. I paid the bills. The practicality of lives. I was independent. I didn't need anyone. Practically, but emotionally, I didn't realise how much I craved. I needed people for my existence.
It's been a journey of discovery for you then the last 11 months.
Yeah, it has. I've had other mental health therapies, and this has been the one that's solved the puzzle of my life,
Yeah.
so to speak.
And of course, it's a Christian-based, spirit-led sort of program. Although you don't have to be a Christian to go there, and it's up to you what you make of the information that's given to you. What did you make of the Christian side of the work that they do there?
Well, I was always open to it, and I thought I knew God, and I had my times where I'd say, yeah, I believe in God, no, I don't believe in God, and things like that. But my understanding of God now and my relationship is so totally different to what I ever thought it would be, and how I understand God to be is totally different to what I thought it would be. I always thought it was dependent on me being good.
I think a lot of people have that idea that it's like earning points.
Yeah, and so I guess when I stumbled, well, I like to say I fell through a tear in the universe, and ended up in this parallel universe where people like me just didn't end up, and I was so angry. I'd done all the right things in life. I'd raised children. I'd been a good mum, and I've worked and all of this, and not realising the chaos I was actually living in. And so I was angry. I was like, how dare you? There's other worse people in the world.
It's not fair. Why me?
Yeah.
Look at them over there. They're far worse than me.
Absolutely. But I'm actually grateful for everything I've been through, because if I had not have gone through that time in my life, I would never have had the opportunity to become the person I am today. And I truly do believe the person I am today is the start of who I was always meant to be. And going to Dooralong, I was able to take off the layers that life had put on me and get to the true essence of me, and actually really get to know myself for the first time ever in my whole life.
Yeah, and it does say, doesn't it, in the Bible, that God does have a plan for each and every one of us, and it is a good plan. It's a plan where we enjoy life in all its abundance.
Yes.
It's not about obeying rules and don't do this, don't do that. It's about enjoying life in its full.
Yes, that's so true, and I'm enjoying life. I enjoy just being with myself. I'm like before, I couldn't sit with myself. I was always busy. I couldn't just be at peace with myself, and I'm okay. I'll go to a cafe and have lunch by myself, whereas before I'd feel humiliated, like, oh, look at her, like she's. I don't feel lonely. I don't feel alone, because I know I'm not anymore. I feel connected to the earth. I feel connected to the world. I don't despise people anymore.
Sounds like the approval you need is given to you by God.
Yes.
That oxygen that you were trying to get from other people in that misguided way that you explained to us. As far as God's concerned, you're already good enough. You're already perfect in His sight.
Yeah, and to know that it's almost like you just have this big sigh, and yes,
I
it's
don't
like,
have to try anymore.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I can just relax. I can just be human, and being human means I make mistakes. I'm not perfect, because trying to be perfect is exhausting, and I can have that compassion. I'm an analogy person, and Dooralong will know me for this analogy, and I got to Dooralong and I said I want to be a lighthouse.
A lighthouse. A
lighthouse, because a lighthouse is rock solid on firm foundation, and that's God for me. It's stoic in what it is, and no matter what storm comes at it and what weather comes at it, it knows it's a lighthouse, and it remains a lighthouse in all seasons. And so that's me knowing who I am and having that integrity, and it has a light that shines a beacon to help other people through the storms and through all weather, and that's that was my aim, just to, and it's a work in progress.
Good analogy.
Yep.
What does the future hold for Jo?
Well, I'm looking. I've actually.
Well, that's up to God, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
What do you hope the future has for you?
Well, I'm waiting for housing. I actually, last Wednesday, I was feeling really good, and I had come to peace with, it doesn't matter if I don't get housing, I can do this, what will happen. Like, I really do have a true belief that, you know, all things will be okay.
Yeah.
And I did get an offer for housing. It was in, like, within a few hours of, like, coming to peace with that. And I was like, oh, wow. And then it came to my attention that this offer for housing was in an area where ex-drug dealers were. It's all full of drugs. And I thought, you know, this isn't from God, this
not
offer.
Healthy.
This is not God sent.
No.
So, I declined that offer, and I'm in transition, like extended care at the moment, and I'm at peace with that, and I know that, you know, I'm going to be looked after no matter what happens. Next week I have a job interview.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
You just have to remind yourself that as God, I mean, you don't even know really how you ended up at Dooralong. but so God has been with you and over this journey of over 12 months or more. He's not going to walk away from you now.
He never has. He's always been with me, even at the times where I didn't feel like he was. You know, when I didn't realise that he had my back. He's always had my back.
Yeah. So he knows where the accommodation is, and he knows the job that you're going to have.
He does. He does. And he might be laughing at me right now going, you're going to waste your time going for that job interview because that's not the one that you're meant to have.
He does have a sense of humour, I'm sure. Yeah. So you're optimistic about the future.
Yeah, and more than anything, I'm at peace. I don't feel that my life depends on it. Whereas before, like, you know, having a job would give me that sense of purpose, that sense of self, whereas I'm okay just plodding along and I'm not in any hurry anymore. I don't feel like time's running out anymore.
And now you don't mind going to the coffee shop and having a coffee on your own?
Yeah, that's right.
You don't feel as if, I'm a failure, nobody's with me?
That's it. I actually like my own company. I love...
Excellent.
Yeah, and it's... You know, I am an introvert and I will spend more time on my own, but I have, you know, in saying that, connection is so important. It's having that connection is an important part of recovery, but being part of being in humanity as well.
Yeah. We were made to be in fellowship and perhaps we overlook it, but if you're a member of a church, then you always have a church family, which is so important. I know you were telling me earlier that you go to a Salvo's church, and I'm sure the church family that you have, it's probably just full of wonderful, wonderful people who are going to be there for you through all the ups and downs.
Yep, and chapel on Wednesday nights at Dooralong, yes.
Yeah, you'll be going back there?
Absolutely, yeah.
Even though you can't sing, you're going to go back there?
I know, that's such a bummer.
Never mind. You enjoy the fellowship, you enjoy the connection.
It is. It's a real sense of community, and I love the messages and it's
God's message.
Yes. Yeah.
It's been a delight talking to you this morning, Jo. Your positivity and enthusiasm for the future, it's infectious. I hope it's infected our listeners. Have a great night tonight at Dooralong. What will it be? Chicken, roast beef, lamb? It's going to be one of those three, isn't it?
No, the pork's good with the crackling.
Oh, it could be the pork with the crackling, could it? Okay, whatever it is, give them our regards when you get back there, and thanks so much for coming in. And as always, we just do pray that God's blessing upon you, and that he will continue to guide you to that life that he's already sort of marked out for you.
Thank you.
11, and listen up, I've got some movie tickets to give away. So it's the movie called Christmas Jars, and it's a sort of antidote to all the negativity of 2020. Gee, it's been a challenging year, hasn't it? Trials, tribulations, bushfires, COVID, floods, droughts. I think we all need a nice, good, feel-good, family-friendly film at Christmas. And our friends at station sponsor Movies Change People, they're making sure that we get our Yuletide fix this Christmas with the release of the movie Christmas Jars. Now, you can go onto the website, you can find out what it's all about. I'm on the IMDb website, which is the Internet Movies Database, one of the big movie sort of review websites. It gets 7.5 out of 10, which is a high score. Yeah, 292 people have seen the movie and they give it 7.5. That's 75% approval. That's pretty good. And there's a little trailer there that you can see. So it's a really good movie. It's getting good reviews. So our friends at Movies Change People, they're making sure that some of you lucky listeners out there will be able to go and see that cinema. It's in cinemas everywhere from December the 3rd. And you can find the cinemas and the session times at christmasjarsmovie.com.au. And yes, free tickets to give away to you. You need to be quick because you'll have to come into Rima to pick them up because, well, we don't trust the post as much as we usually do at this time of the year. So we posted them to you. Well, you might not get them in time. So all you've got to do, and this is a double pass, all you've got to do is give us a ring on 4367 4042. 4367 4042 during this next song, and if you're the first person to do so, we'll give you a double pass which you can come in and collect and then go off to see the movie.
You've been listening to an encore presentation of the Dooralong stories, which can be heard live every Wednesday at 10 a.m. and repeated 8 p.m. Sunday and 1 a.m. Wednesday, right here on 94.9 Rima.cc.